Cool. Hi, Nat. How are you? How's the trip to
I'm good.
Adelaide been?
Yeah, it's been good. Yeah, can't complain. Everything's gone pretty smoothly. So, we left Newcastle straight after the game and headed to Sydney, and then got a flight yesterday morning to Adelaide and train this afternoon. So, yeah, it's been pretty smooth so far.
Cool. Any player or injury concerns heading into tomorrow's match, or is it the same?
Yeah, nah, we're pretty good. Everyone came through the Newcastle game pretty well, like some sore bodies as you'd expect this end of the season and a pretty quick turnaround. So that'll kind of dictate the lineup and the 16 for tomorrow. But yeah, everyone's in pretty good shape.
Do you think there might be a bit of rotation, obviously, given that you are playing 3 games in a week? And I mean, do you take into account at all that some of your players will be flying off to Turkey on Sunday?
We definitely take into account the 3 games in 8 days. I think a big learning from last year is that we maybe didn't rotate the squad given the opportunity to during like when we had really, really quick turnarounds. So there definitely will be some rotation so that we can ensure that there is freshness around the field for all 3 games. Um, yeah, there hasn't really been much talk about the squad leaving for Turkey. Everything's kind of been focused on ending the season as strongly as we can.
And I mean, yeah, these last 2 weeks you've obviously had, I guess, disappointing outcomes. How have the players sort of reacted to, I guess, coming off that Sydney win, really looking at Perth and Newcastle, and I guess even as the games have unfolded, being in with chances to get something out of those, but not ultimately get it.
Yeah, they've like it's hurt. Like they've been pretty gutted. The Sydney game felt like a big turning point, and I think the positive they'll always see is the performances have been there, but they know that the results haven't. So they they're pretty resilient. They're pretty strong. We're pretty gutted after Newcastle, but then we have a game 2 days later, so we have to refocus. The players that are used to international football are used to doing that also. A game, a couple of days break, and then a game. So for us, it was really disappointing to not get a result out of Newcastle. But credit to everyone for kind of feeling sorry for themselves for a little bit and then moving on and getting ready for Adelaide.
And just to go a bit more philosophically, because it's going to help with something I got to write in the next couple of weeks. The issue of, I guess, goal scoring. Not just with this team this season. Just in New Zealand more broadly, it's something that you know I think is hard to find at all levels and all sort of both men and women. What have your sort of experiences been in terms of, I guess, looking at development in New Zealand and sort of trying to find players who can kick on and be goal scorers at the higher levels?
Yeah, I think it's a good question and can probably be a whole interview within itself. It's the hardest thing to do in football. We have some really good young players here that um, we know can score and we know will score. And then it comes to like their composure in more, I suppose, pressured moments. I think I look to this season and the chances created. So at the beginning of the season, not necessarily creating a huge amount, to then starting to create a good amount, but not necessarily the quality, to now we're creating quality chances. Um, so like we've really got to nurture our young players to be able to give them the time and patience to put them in these situations where they can develop these skills. We also know we have to win games. So again, like it's been talked about, for next season and strikers, if we can bring in like a really experienced striker that's been through it to also help develop these younger strikers that we've got that have huge potential for New Zealand. and help them in those more pressured moments, then yeah, that's got to be something we do. I think, like, if you look at it as a whole, do we do enough as a development system? Do we do enough shooting in training? Do we sometimes as coaches have shooting as a reward rather than as a something that is needed? And I think that that's a real philosophical mindset shift that I personally learned a lot from Wendy Henderson when we took National League back in 2014 maybe, and we finished every session with shooting because it's the most important part of the game, or one of the most important part of the game. So yeah, I think if we want people to score goals, we've got to put them in more opportunities to shoot and feel that pressure. We've tried to do that this year with our young strikers, and we'll continue to do that and add a little bit more experience as well, given the opportunity.
In your experience with this team the last 2 years in this competition, and I guess your international age group experiences, I mean, is it fair to say that defenders find that sort of step up to whatever sort of step they're taking a bit easier to make? I guess, like, it's easier to be a defender who's been defending New Zealand strikers and sort of step up, whereas if you're a striker who's been scoring against New Zealand defenders, when you come up against better defenders, it's a bit harder. Like, it's the two different ends of the game are a bit different. Is that something you've experienced? Do I make any sense?
Yeah, no, it does make it does make sense. I think like, that's with any kind of environment that you're in, you kind of get used to who you're playing against. I think for kind of defending is an art, and is a hard art, and you have to have pure concentration and be able to read the game and what other attackers are trying to do. But it's also something that you can add a lot more structure to, whereas kind of that final third of the game, you're relying on a little bit more of the individual creativity and flair, so to speak. So like, doing attacking is always, I find in my experience, harder than defending, because I think defending is difficult. 1v1 defending has a lot of technical intricacies to it. So just 2v1, defending wide areas, everything is still difficult, but it seems a little bit more structured than attacking. I think to our attackers, and we talk to them a lot, arguably we've got some of the best defenders in the league, I think, for us. So when it comes to us, we kind of don't really use that as an excuse, because we've seen how Mac, Marisa, Kate, Mickey Foster, Chico, Saskia, everyone, how they can defend, not only defending the box, but defending in 1v1 areas. So we feel like we try and put them under that pressure and strain to deal with the pressure that they may be under. But is that the same as if you go up against Leah Williamson every week? Then probably not. So it's up to us as coaches as well to try and create those kind of chaotic situations in training.
And just on one player in particular who found the back of the net on the weekend, Paige, coming off those last Ferns matches, she had a few games where she was on the bench, then she's come back into the starting 11. She was real good against Sydney. I didn't see the Perth game, but she obviously scored on the weekend. Was that a bit of a I guess a coaching plan to sort of have her on the bench and have her reflecting on some things and working on some things? And have you sort of seen some improvement, and how good is it for her to sort of, I guess, finally sort of get that first, get a goal after quite a long time without one?
Yeah, I think she's had like a little bit of a disjointed season. She had heart surgery at the beginning, and like, that probably put her back a little bit more than we thought. Obviously, when you look at or hear heart surgery, you're always going to think it's something really extreme, but the operation she had was fairly minor, but it affected other parts. So it affected her groin, for example, which then just her in like she struggled to recover from some games and some training, so we weren't able to have quite a continuous plan for her, mixed in with kind of sprinkles of the ferns as well. So we were able just to like take the reins and the pressure off a little bit, get her training consistently, get her really simplifying her game. And I think like you said, the last 3 games, you didn't see the Perth game, but I think the Perth fullbacks still probably having nightmares about Paige running past her a few times. So she was phenomenal in that game and rightly got player of the day. And again, against Newcastle at the weekend, she's doing the things that we want her to do. She's going 1v1. She's showing how incredibly fast she is with the ball at her feet, and we're getting that final product from her now as well. So we've been like really, really pleased with Paige, especially the last few weeks.